Hello, this is Michael, your favorite Agile thought provoker. This week I'm going to do a series on some team building coaching models that are known in the industry. And I will start this series with probably the most famous, most widely spread model, which is the Tuckman Model. About the Tuckman Model, it's very simple, very easy, maybe too simple. I'll get into that a bit later. The original Tuckman Model consisted of 4 phases. Later it was enhanced to 5. But even to this very day, even though the model is from the 60s, the 4-stage model still sticks around. And the 4 stages are, if you don't already know, forming, storming, norming, and performing. And later we had the addition of the so-called adjourning phase as well. Let's not get into that too much. So what happens when we start a new team? We begin in the forming phase where there's little clarity both on what do we want to achieve, what does it mean to work as a team, how are we going to work, where are we going. We're just getting together and finding out who we are, what we actually want to be doing. And this brings us pretty much naturally into the storming phase, which is where we'll have arguments. Is this better? Is that better? Is this really what we want to achieve? Don't we want to achieve something else? There could be better ways of achieving what we want to achieve. Who's supposed to play which role in the team? Who is in charge of what? And all those kind of questions lead to conflict. In the storming phase, we have mostly conflict and differences in opinions and perspective. And what we want to do is get out of this storming as fast as possible into norming, where we are creating rules of how we want to work, what we want to achieve together, where we're actually going, where we're headed, which kind of principles we're going to follow in order to reach the performing stage, which is where we actually get work done, create results, generate output, produce value, which is actually the entire reason for having a team. And with adjourning, there might be differences in interpretation of what this is even supposed to mean. Some people argue that adjourning is when the team is beyond those stages and has become a high-performing team. Others say adjourning is when a team disbands to continue on their way, when individuals go their own way again and do something else. Now, this one would be a direct contradiction towards the agile principle of having stable teams that are not project-based but long-term stable in order to grow into long-term performance. Some people suggest that we can even map the stages to performance. Here we'd have the time. So what would you expect the performance to look like? In the forming phase, which is when a team is still generally new, we have a certain level of performance which is not very high. And then the conflict comes. And while we have conflict, we do a lot of things, and producing value isn't one of them. So performance here actually drops. We have a decline in performance for storming. And when we are norming, we of course create norms that do help us to get our work done, and performance increases again. And the goal is that we reach a plateau which should be either good performance or preferably even high performance. It should be higher than where we initially started. This is where we want to get with a team, and depending on which model we're using, at a certain point, we should consider what do we do with our team. Do we want to continue as a team? Do we want to regroup? Do we want to work on something else? And then this is what happens. Now there's one note of caution with the Tuckman model. This one looks like a linear process which goes from left to right in a linear sequence, which isn't the case. Those phases can happen simultaneously. So while you might think that, oh, we are already in performing phase, there might still be conflict in the team where the team is storming about certain topics and hasn't found their norms yet. On the positive side, when you are hosting a team building workshop, first time you're forming as a team, you know that there will be some conflict, for example, over working agreements, definition of done, roles within the teams, responsibilities of individuals, and that is good. It might even be worse to create situations where those topics are being brought to light, get addressed very fast in order to coach the team into a norming phase where they create the definition of done that they want to follow, where they create the rules, where they generate ideas of how they want to align in order to reach a done product increment, which later, when the workshop ends, they can be very productive from the first minute and perform well. This is an ideal. In practice, it's never that easy. In practice, as soon as you hit the desk, you realize we are not in performing yet. We still have some storming things, and in some aspects, we're definitely still forming. We might have had some ideas about how we want to do, but practice is different. So this is where the Scrum Master support comes in to realize and observe, where is the team still in storming? Where do they need some coaching support to get to norming fast? And where is performing reached and where is it not reached? And one interesting observation is that this one may repeat on a per user story level. For one story, we have well understood how we want to do this and we're performing. And for another user story, there's still a lot of arguments. The product owner, what do you actually want from us? What is important? What is needed? What is the best thing that we can do it? Team members, should we do it in the story procedure? Should we do it in the back end? Should we do it in the front end? Do we want a rich client? I have no idea, and there might be different opinions within the team. So there would be storming, and it could be that we can't even come to an agreement until we have tried actually doing it. Maybe for this one user story, we want to deliver it, and for another user story, we want to experiment a little bit. Different people in the team might say, I will try my idea and we'll come back together. And then from that, what we learned, we go into a norming session to say which is the pattern that we want to follow in the long term. Well, why do I see that the Tuchman model is valuable? Because it's a great way to think in which stage are we currently. What is the primary driver of the activities in the team, of the conversations in the team that we observe? Why do I think that the Tuckman model is a gross oversimplification? The more you know, the more you realize that we're always in all 4 stages at the same time, just to different degrees. So instead of saying which phase are we in, the question becomes more, which of those stages is prevalent at the things that is happening right now, and what should I as a coach do in order to support my team to get to performing faster and more effectively? So that's my take on the Tuckman model.